Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast. We have Priscilla McKinney with us. She's an aspiring lunch eater with a penchant for jaywalking. So that's going to be interesting. As an intro, she has a book on Amazon. Collaboration is the new competition. And she's a podcaster as well. She's the CEO of Little Bird Marketing. We're going to talk, obviously, today about digital marketing, inbound marketing, content marketing, and podcasting, amongst other things. So, this pod is presented to you by my podcasting company. It's called podfire.com. If you want to start your pod, you can go to podfire.com. We'll scale your podcast the unconventional way. Priscilla, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Yeah, Charles, so nice to be on a podcast with a fellow podcaster. I know how much work goes into it. So before we get started, if you like Charles's show, please just go give him a great rating wherever you're watching it and give him a little bit of kudos. It takes a lot of time and effort to have these conversations. So I really appreciate being on. So I am the CEO of Little Bird Marketing, and we just try and do things a little bit differently over here. And I recently wrote my book about collaboration because a lot of people were asking me, "How is it that you're doing this? How is it? How is this different?" And to me, what seemed very obvious, which is a lot of us have kind of our own natural style that seems obvious to ourselves. And people kept asking me, "How are you getting like these bigger wins quicker for brands?" And I thought, well, because I collaborate, obviously. And then I realized, oh, that is different. And I decided I needed to really write down the basics of it. And here's the thing. It's not like it's so genius. It's actually simple. It's just not always easy. And so I wrote a book that is very to the point, not a lot of fluff, but really to help people understand how to do anything they are trying to do better by collaborating with other people. And case in point, you and I are collaborating right now. You're letting me come on your show and be exposed to your whole audience. And so we're having this moment of collaboration, and collaborations can be in the moment and short and sweet, or they could be, years and years long and very deep. And so I really helped people understand this idea of how to collaborate better. And just in closing of that is just to say that this is so important for digital marketing, content marketing, inbound marketing, lead generation marketing, because we are all a dime a dozen anymore. Nobody's that special. There's so much coming at everybody. And you really have to do something better. You need to unite yourself with multiple people and leverage other people's audiences in order to make a splash quicker. And so that's why the collaboration is a really nice fit in with the way business works today.
I triple down on that. I call it competition. Competition is quite important too nowadays. I mean, you've known that you've worked at Wells Fargo and so forth in banking, but cooperation cooperation is so like underrated nowadays. For example, sometimes I reach out to my competitors, quote unquote, and ask them, "Hey, do you want to join this podcast? Do you want to join this mastermind?" And the thing is, when you unite with them, the people that are missing out are the people that are playing solo in their own lane, right? They miss the knowledge, they miss the insights, they miss the partnerships. While if you unite with your competition, you can grow and grow and grow. And I've learned so much from masterminding with my competition. They give me ideas all the time. We trade lists in our field, for example, in cold email. And yeah, podcasting is pretty much the best thing invented since sliced bread, because you can reach out to them, have a convo, spread it out, add value to the world, and grow. My first question for you is, yeah, you had an odd background. You traveled the world. How did that shape you and brought you where you are today?
Well, it's kind of interesting you start there because I'm the fifth of five sisters, and we grew up all over the world traveling, singing. I was always in some kind of a matching dress of some sort, so that's painful. But it really made me who I am, and this is one interesting thing. I lived in 34 houses in my time growing up. By the time I turned 35, I was like, "Oh, great. I finally am older than the number of houses I lived in." And what that taught me was very quickly, I needed to be able to assess a situation, make my friends, make alliances, and really figure out how to succeed in a year where I would probably only be in that school for the next 6 to 9 months, you know? And, I went to 4 different high schools in 3 different countries. And I learned very quickly how to assess the situation and how to leverage it for my benefit. And really, I hope to think for the benefit of others. The other side of that is that being the fifth of 5 girls, I was an immediate part of a already established gang, right? I already had an amazing sense of belonging. I didn't need to prove myself to people, so I could very quickly be myself. That was my experience. And so I wasn't really worried about getting into a place and impressing. I was really worried about getting into a place and really being able to enjoy it and everybody have a win. And so I feel like I had a very, wonderful childhood in that sense. And it really created this worldview for me of being able to assess a room very quickly, whether that's, partners in business, competitors in business, employees, colleagues, past colleagues, whatever it is, and say, who everybody quickly in the middle, throw all of your best strengths. Let's play to everybody's strengths. Let's do the very best thing, but let's do it quickly because we might not have a lot of time. And I just got that sense of urgency and that quick sense of being able to assess a situation from the way I grew up.
Have you always been that energetic?
Yeah. On the bio on my book, it says at the very end, don't give her caffeine. She doesn't need it. And that there is never a truer word spoken. I'm great. I love coffee. Give me decaf. We'll still have a great conversation.
So how do you split your time and your days now?
Well, I'm full-time CEO at Little Bird Marketing. I'm a selling president. I'm very involved with my clients day to day. Some I'm involved with so heavily that besides the services of my clients, I am a fractional CMO for some of our clients. And so that's really where people are very focused on high growth modes. And we really need to, bring an entire team together to focus on that revenue generation. So that's typically what happens. But day to day, I'm the CEO, managing about 15 different creatives. And then we have some other freelancers also who've worked with us for many years. So we have a bigger team to call on. But I do have a focus where I focus on the market research industry. So I'm very involved in that particular world. But more than anything, our specialty is in B2B. So I work with businesses, serving other businesses. That's absolutely the sweet spot. And that's really where I wrote my book from, this idea of collaboration. We're not selling widgets. Some of us are selling anywhere from $50,000 services to, $500,000 of a contract with a client. And so the sophistication that is required for being able to really understand your ideal client buyer, really understand their pains and speak directly their pains and finding your right people, like not marketing to the people who are not ideal for you, but only marketing to the people who are ideal and really getting to serve those clients and serve them very well. So day to day, that's what I'm doing, trying to help my team really understand how to constantly lend focus so that our clients can actually achieve their goals.
Right, and you're fractional CMO at 3 companies. How do you juggle with?
Every single one of them is different what they need from me. Some of them are very large strategic, some of them require standing meetings. It's really an advisory position. And it also taps into a lot of my own personal contacts that I've made, over the years. I'm often speaking at conferences. I get opportunities to share the stage with my clients. I have two podcasts, and so sometimes I can leverage some of those relationships and opportunities for the benefit of those clients. And so it's different with every single client. It starts with what do they really need? And maybe they only need a fractional CMO for a short period of time. Or I've been able to come in and fill in when they've lost a full-time chief marketing officer, and they're looking for the right person. But in the meantime, business has to go on, and so getting someone who's very experienced and has a proven track record is really important when a business still has to meet their goals.
Right. The podcast, why did you started it, and does it accomplish the goals you set for yourself?
Yeah. Well, I'm very talkative. I kind of tell a funny story about why I started my blog and my podcast is that when we would travel around, me and all my sisters in the back of the van, every once in a while it would just get out of hand, if you can imagine. And I remember my dad would say something like, if I hear another peep out of you guys, and of course, my sisters and I, it's just like, beep. We just couldn't help ourselves. I have something to say. I'm dying to say it. That's how I am in every single room. That's how I do everything. And so having a blog and then being able to start my podcast later on really gave me a place to be able to share my perspective. And then just to see, well, who wants to come along on this journey? Who wants to be in this party? But the podcast, as you know, is the most, in my opinion, amazing tool, like you said at the beginning of the show, to connect with people and expand your network, because who turns you down for being on a podcast? Like nobody. Right. And so it's been my calling card to really broker relationships and, starting with just a simple conversation with people that I really otherwise would not connect with. I would not have the opportunity. It just gives you this amazing, entree into a completely different world. And you've got to be bold and use it, but a podcast is an amazing way to meet people. I'll be down at a Green Books event. I love their annual IIEX and innovation format, and they've asked me to come and do a live podcast there. Well, I get to bring a guest of my choice to that. So not only having people on my podcast is one thrill, but also being asked to do podcasts occasionally live from different stages is super fun, because then I get to invite somebody that really, would not just give me a half an hour or give me 45 minutes so I could talk with them, but on a podcast they sure will.
What is the source system?
Well, Source System is a proprietary system I created many years ago because I had companies coming to us and saying, look, marketing is great and creative is great and it's fun. I get it. But what is it doing for me? And in the birth of it was really in the very beginning of inbound marketing and content marketing. And we look in the business to business world, we do know, thanks to a Gartner report, that B2B buyers are doing their research. They're on a largely self-directed journey, looking through content, doing their own research without contacting salespeople, right? They want to be informed, and they're quietly going about their business privately. And your company doesn't know that they may be the perfect fit for your service, but they're going to go do their research on their own first. And in fact, they're about almost 60% of the way through all of the research they're going to do before they ever contact a company. That should be very frightening to B2B companies, to realize that this anonymous journey is going on without them being able to help. And so that's kind of one problem. The second problem is that those B2B buyers, we know, are reading at least 14 pieces of content before they decide who they're going to contact. And then my question to my clients or prospects is, how many of those 14 pieces of content were yours? How authoritative are you in your field? How helpful are you? How overtly helpful are you? Are you really going out there and understanding your most ideal client in a deep way where you can provide value from the very beginning? And so I created the source system to say, look, a lot of clients are like, yeah, but we keep doing marketing things, but we just don't know what things are working. And I found a lot of companies who were doing the right thing, but they were doing it in the right order. I mean, sorry, in the wrong order. And so what I did was place, in my opinion, marketing efforts specific for content marketing for lead generation into the right order. And anybody can use this. They don't have to work with Little Bird Marketing. Here's my overtly helpful piece. SOAR. You can use it. Strategy first, then organization, then accountability, and then repeatability. Don't ask me at the very beginning, well, what are the KPIs going to look like? What's the report going to look like? What are we going to double down on next year? I don't know that yet because we haven't gotten there. So, what they fail to do often is start at the beginning, the strategy. Who is your most ideal client? What assets do you already have? What are your strengths? Right. And starting with that strategy and then moving on through the system. And I think the organization is one thing that's about not only organizing it tactically, but it's also asking yourself, do we have the bandwidth to organize it? Do we have the right people within the organization? And the A is where the beauty happens because it's accountability. So if we set a plan in place for a client, and I don't care if it's, 3 days, 3 weeks, or 3 months later, someone's like, oh, I have a good idea. We're going to go to the show, or we're going to do this, or we should buy this promotional item, or we should write this blog article, whatever it is. I'm like, wait, time out. Sounds great, but does it follow our strategy? Can it be organized within our system? And if so, yes. And if not, the answer is no. And what our source system does is not only put things in the right order, but it also gives clients really the beauty of finally saying no to some things because you have to start saying no to certain marketing efforts if you cannot really control them the way you need to control them. Because from having a podcast, every person who comes on who has everybody has an opinion about how you should run your business and you should do this and you should do this and you should. It's endless. You have to do a few things, do it well, and do it within a system.
So how are you getting your client?
Well, we're having a banner year, so that's great. But one thing I've done, I mentioned, is that I do niche. I do work only with B2B companies. So that is one niche. Secondly, I'm very strongly known and have a very a big sphere of influence within the market research industry. So, consumer insights, retail shopper insights, anything like that. Now, that doesn't mean that all my clients do that, but they do services peripheral to that. Maybe they provide, AI, analysis of data. Maybe they help store people to store their survey data, the first party data. Maybe they do qualitative work. They do actually engaging with consumers. I have clients who actually have the Class A facilities where people hold focus groups. I have companies who are language experts who translate surveys across the globe, et cetera, et cetera. So I just keep swimming in this same, soup so that people know me and I build influence within that. But then, other B2B companies come to us, and of course, we can apply the same best practices and those same principles and show them how to actually achieve their goals as well.
Where can people find out more about you, Priscilla?
Well, we have littlebirdmarketing.com, and I've got to say, we work very hard to give a lot of free resources. We are not going to work with everybody, but we can be helpful to everybody. And so you can check out littlebirdmarketing.com/resources, all kinds of freebies, everything from social media, best practices to, getting better Google reviews to how to actually create a sustainable plan. I mean, we have just so many things out there, but the best one that I love is all of our work on ideal client persona creation, because I don't think you should do anything next in your business unless you are very clear about your most ideal client. And so I have a lot of free resources about that, and people can, just walk themselves through the workbooks, read through the helpful information that we've provided, and just get your company in a better situation.